software which executes web pages containing text, image, graphics, animation, these all. Okay. Now server required. Next, write it. Server. A server is a software that receives requests from the client, comma, process the request, comma, constructs a response, and sends a response to a client. A server is a software that receives requests from the client, comma, process the request, comma, constructs the response, and sends a response back to a client. And sends a response back to a client. A server is a software that receives requests from the client, comma, process the request, constructs the response, and sends the response back to a client. Any software receiving request, processing request, constructing response, sending response back, that is called server. There are two types of servers. There are two types of servers. First one, web servers. Second one, application servers. There are two types of servers. First one, web servers. Second one, application servers. There are two types of servers. First one, web servers. Second one, application servers. Web servers. A web server is a server which contains only web container. A web server is a server which contains only web container. A web server is a server which contains only web container. So there are two types of servers are there. First one, web servers. Second one, application servers. Web servers. A web server is a server which contains only web container. Which contains only web container. Say, server is a software that receives requests from the client, processes the request, constructs the response, sends the response back to a client. That is server. There are two types of servers, web servers, application server. Web servers means which contains only web container. Web container contains web components. Web components are solids and JSPs. Web components are solids and JSPs. See, a web server is a server which contains only web container. So web container is one part inside the web server. Web container contains web components. Web components nothing but solids and JSPs. Is it over? See, like this will be there. only web container. So web container, it is a web server. Here Solid's, JSPs, these are web components. Say JSP, Solid, JSP, Solid, JSP. These all. So web server one software, in that web container will be there. Container contains web components. These are web components. Note down. So web server software contains web container. Web container software contains web components. Nothing but Solid programs and JSP programs. So it is one software. In this software, it is one part. In that part, web components will be placed. So Solid, if you want to place container required, the container is available in web server. Solid will run here. Is it over? So Solid programs, JSP programs, and the filter programs, these all Spring MVC struts, these all comes under web components. These all will run in web container software. Web container is a software available in web server software like this. Okay. Now next write it, list of web servers. List of web servers. List of web servers. List of web servers. Tomcat web server, iPlanet web server, Java web server, personal web server, Jetty web server, Resin web server, so like this, so many servers are there. Dash dash, etc. Even our India server also is there. Pramati web server. These all web servers. Tomcat, iPlanet, Java, personal, Jetty, Resin, Pramati. These are web servers. List of web servers. There are two types of servers are there, web servers and application servers. No, second one, application servers. An application server is a server which contains both web container and EJB, enterprise Java beans container. An application server is a server which contains both web container and EJB container. An application server is a server which contains both web container and EJB container. An application server is a server which contains both web container and EJB container. Two containers will be there here. An application server is a server which contains both web container and EJB container. Two containers. No. Application server is a server which contains both web container and EJB container. Two containers will be there. Is it over? See the diagram here. Web container, EJB container. It is application server. Here, solets will be there, JSPs will be there. Here, solets will be there, JSPs will be there. Here, only EJBs will be there. Right is all. These are called web components. These are called business components. So Solet runs in web container. Web container available in web server also, application server also. So any server we can use. But if you want to run EJB, enterprise applications, then compulsory application server required. If you want to run EJBs, EJB container required. Then application server only we have tried. Now any server we can use for Solid program. For Solid program, any server we can use. Is it over? So in this server, two containers are there. One is web container, one more EJB container. Web container contains web components. EJB container contains EJBs, business components. These are complete business related application. Money related applications, money transactions will be there. For that, enterprise Java beans required. EJBs. It is fully secured application concept. That is Spring Enterprise. Later we'll see. Is it over? Now, list of application servers. List of application servers. WebLogic application server. WebSphere application server. Sun1 application server. JBoss application server. Now we are calling like a wildfly. That name changed. Glassfish application server. These are application servers. List of application servers. List of application servers. Is it over? Now, Solid runs in which container? Web container. Web container is available in both the servers. Write it. Solid runs in web container. Web container available in web container, web server and application server. Solid runs in web container. Web container available in web server and application server. Now you can use web server also. You can use application server also. Any one server you have to use. Now these servers also, any server you can use. Okay. Solid runs in web container. Web container available in web server and application server. That's what any server you can use. Not a problem. Any server. Okay. Now, this server we are going to install. This server we are going to use. Tomcat server. Okay. Now, Solid runs in web container available in web server and application server. Two servers, any server you can use. You are going to learn web servers here. After advanced Java, you are going to learn application servers. These are high level servers, application servers. Enterprise application purpose compulsory. Now, you already studied Sowlet's definition. What is Sowlet? Sowlet's is a specification for developing web applications with Java programming language. Okay. Say JDBC. What is JDBC? Specification for developing database application with Java programming language. You studied JDBC specification, nothing but rules and guidelines. Now, JDBC specification used by vendors. JDBC specification used by Java programmers. Now, JDBC specification used by vendors, what purpose? JDBC specification used by vendors. JDBC specification used by Java programmers. I given this point. JDBC specification used by vendors, what purpose? To develop drivers. I given JDBC specification used by vendors to develop drivers. Without driver, is it possible? No. Here, without web container, is it possible? So, Sowlet's specification used by vendors to develop web container. Sowlet specification used by Java programmers to develop web application. Write that point. Sowlet's specification used by vendors to develop web containers. Sowlet's specification used by vendors to develop web container. Sowlet's specification used by vendors, used by Java programmers to develop web applications. Sowlet's specification used by vendors to develop web container. Sowlet's specification used by Java programmers to develop web applications. Sowlet's specification used by vendors to develop web container. Sowlet's specification used by Java programmers to develop web applications. See, it is a specification. Rules and guidelines will be there. This is a specification. Sowlet's. It is Sowlet's. It is specification. It contains rules and guidelines. Seeing these rules and guidelines, web container developed. Web container developed. How many web containers are there? Many containers are there. Because different servers are there. Server vendors. See, this specification given by Sun Microsystem company. This container developed by Apache company, IBM company, different companies. Different companies, different containers developed. And seeing this specification, you are going to develop web application. You are going to develop web application. Okay. This web application you will run in web container. Then it will understand. So seeing these rules and guidelines, you have to develop this application. Then only this application executed in container, because this container developed with these rules only. And now, suppose you don't want to follow these rules and guidelines. You want to develop your own style. Will it container understands? No. Here, Java programmer only two options. Either you follow rules and guidelines or you develop container. So can you develop container? No. Then follow rules and guidelines. Okay, only two options. Either develop container or follow rules and guidelines. You cannot develop container, then follow rules and guidelines. Because web container software already developed. Web container understandable format, you have to write your program. If you want to write your own style, it is not possible. Because this container should understand. If container not understands means it will not execute. Not execute means your program will not run. You will not get output. Okay. So seeing this solid specification, different companies, different containers developed, but all containers follows these rules. That's what your Java program is, platform independent. Because same rules and guidelines will be there in every container. That's what, seeing these rules and guidelines only, you have to develop your application. Then your application will run in container. Okay. That is Solids. So Solids is a specification. This specification we are going to use. What purpose? To develop web application. In this specification only, how to develop container will be there. In this specification only, how to develop web application will be there. What you are going to learn? How to develop container or how to develop web application? How to develop web application you are going to learn. Okay. So in that specification, 70% how to develop container will be there. 30% how to develop web application will be there. In that 30%, just 10% if you learn, it is a more than enough. Okay, complete, no need to learn. So specifications, thousands of pages will be there. One specification. Okay. Now, how to develop web application you are going to learn in this. Okay. Now, before going to this developing application, which was first specification for developing internet application? That is, I'll compare with this one. Say, internet introduced in 1990. Internet introduced in 1990. Java came and existed in the market 1995. Okay. Solids came and existed in the market 1996, 97. Like that. So Solid specification after Java. So initially only programming language came. Later Solid specification introduced. Solids also many specifications, many versions are there. So Solids version history. If you type first site only, Wikipedia site appears. This is in this Wikipedia site. See, observe. Solid's latest specification. This is Java EE given. Solids 6.0 version. Latest 7 months ago. Okay. This is changed. Java Solid place Jakarta Solid. I'll explain. So here it comes under Java EE. Java EE now we are calling like a Jakarta EE. Now this is changed. Now Solid specification. See Solid's versions. See latest version 6.0. See Solid 4.0 up to 4.0 Java was there. Later Jakarta they given word. Jakarta also Indonesian island name. Java also Indonesian island name. Okay. Now Java EE 10th version came. In that 6.0 Solids. See 1.0 when it is introduced December 1996. Okay. So 96 December 97 January at the time released. 96 December. So first Java came, later Solids came. So 1990 internet came. 1995 Java came. 1996 Solids came. But before Solids only internet was there. But for developing internet application, which specification they used? There was up to 96, one specification was popular, CGI, Common Gateway Interface. This was one specification was there. This was popular before Solids. When Solids came, it is outdated. Why? This is, they may ask an interview. That's what you have to learn. Write it. CGI versus solids. One side CGI, Common Gateway Interface. CGI versus solids. One side CGI, one more side solids. Common Gateway Interface. First difference, CGI is a specification for developing web applications with C, C++, Perl, etc. CGI is a specification for developing web applications with C, C++, Perl, etc. Solids is a specification for developing web applications with the Java programming language. CGI is a specification for developing web applications with C, C++, Perl, etc. Solids is a specification for developing web applications with Java programming language. See, CGI supports multiple languages, C, C++, Perl, many languages. What are the languages already exist? With those languages, they develop internet applications. But Solids, only one programming language, that is Java. Okay. But why it is outdated, CGI? Write it. CGI based web server creates a new process for every request. Solids based web server creates a new process for very first request only. And remaining requests Solids based web server creates a new process for very first request only, and remaining requests are handled by child process. Solids based web server creates a new process for very first request only, and remaining requests are handled by child process, nothing but threads. So this is a main difference between Solid and CGI. With this reason only CGI outdated. I'll explain. CJ based web server creates a new process for every request. Soulets based web server creates a new process for very first request only, and remaining requests are handled by child processes. Multi-threading you study, no? Threads, child process. See, suppose it is CJ based server. Here, one CGI, CJ1. Here, one more CGI. So, two CJ programs are there. These programs are present in CJ based web server. Now, here request came. Request, suppose like this, 5 requests came. Assume 5 requests like this, request came. Here, request for CJ1. It is a request for CJ2. It is a request for CJ1. Again, request for CJ2. Request for CJ1. Total, how many requests came to CJ1? 3. Request to CJ2, 2 requests. But what will happen is every request, new process. Like again, 5 process. 5 process created. This is process for CJ1. So every request separate process. Process for CJ2. Process for CJ3. Process for CJ4. Process for CJ5. CJ, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4 again. Process for CJ 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Say 1, 2. Okay. Now, here, suppose in this server, 2 CJs are there. Total number of requests are 1000. Then how many process? 1000. So every request, new process like this. Suppose if it is Soulets, suppose we have 2 Soulets. Suppose 2 Soulets are there. Soulet 1, Soulet 2. 2 Soulets are there. Here, Soulets based web server. Soulets based web server. Now, same style, 5 requests here. Assume 5 requests. So request First request for solid 1, solid 2, solid 1, solid 2, like that I'll give. Now it is request for solid 1. Here. Request for solid 2. Okay. Request for solid 1. Request for solid 2. Request for solid 1. Like this we have. Now 3 requests for solid 1, 2 requests for solid 2. But here how many process? 2 process. Okay. It is process for solid 1. Next process for solid 2. So here when first request came to solid 1, then one process created. When second request came to solid 1, from that child process created. With that it will handle. Again third request came to solid 1. From that again child process created. That will handle. Like this it will handle. Suppose here 2 CGIs, total 1000 requests. Here how many process? 1000. Here 2 solids, here total 1000 requests. Here how many process? 2 only. It depends upon number of requests, number of process. Here depends upon number of solids, number of process. Now 1995 Java came. 1996 solids came. 1996 internet, how many people accessed it? Very less. For one server 10,000 requests also not there. 95, 96 only in Hyderabad introduced it. Before that internet was not there in Hyderabad. That means worldwide many places it was not there. But now small village also internet is there. Okay. But long back 1996 at that time internet Hyderabad just introduced it at that time. Then internet usage was very less. Very few people they accessed internet because very costly. Even they do not know how to operate also. They don't know what exactly internet also at that time. Okay. Very less number of people use it. Now at that time one server 10,000 requests also not there. But now crores of requests coming. Still if it is CGI, is it possible to create those many process? No, server will become fail while creating these many process means. Say Google server, how many requests? Crores of requests coming. But still if it is CGI is there, every request new process means burden to processor. That's what solids become as popular. But here also crores of process with one process not possible. What will happen is when first request comes, one process created. Suppose that process capacity maximum 1000 suppose assume. Then 1000 created child process. When 1001 request comes, one more child process, one more new process may be created. Load balancing purpose. Because that process will become weak. Then it cannot create new child. Then it will be terminated. That main process also may be terminated. So according to hardware, software configuration, one process capacity may be 1000 child process or 10,000 child process. Up to that only created. Exact one will not be there. Okay. Because now crores of requests coming. Only one process will not be there. Okay. Every 1000 one process or every 10,000 one process may be created. That is server administration. One more course will be there. Tomcat administration, WebLogic administration. That is one more course. That course, if you want to learn, Java not required. This course, if you want to learn, that is not required. Okay. Either that or this you can learn. You are learning Java means that course is not required. Okay. That is also one course to handle these requests, all those things. Okay. So exact one process will not be there. Load balancing purpose that may create more than one. Suppose here 10,000 requests are there. Assume 10,000 requests are there. one process can create 1,000 child process only, assume. Then how many main process created? 10 created. Every 1,000, one process. That type. Got it? The diagram CJ said, this diagram solid said, write it. So exact one will not be there. Load balancing purpose, more than one may be created. Depends upon software capacity, hardware capacity, software configuration, hardware configuration. Okay. Suppose one main process, from that only maximum 10,000 child process possible, up to 1,000 only created. When 1,001 comes, one more may be created. That type. Okay. That it depends upon software configuration, hardware configuration. But CGA, what will happen? Every request, new process. Request for CGA1, process for CGA1. Request for CGA2, process for CGA2. Request for CGA1, process for CGA1. Request for CGA2, process for CGA2. Request for CGA1, process for CGA1. Every request, new process. Suppose 1,000 requests are there, 1,000 process created. That is burden to server. So with this reason only, CGA was outdated. Main reason this is only. Okay. Why CGA outdated is with this reason only. Long back, internet usage was very less. Very less number of people used internet. At the time, it is handled. but still CJ is there. It cannot handle these many requests. 1990 internet, 2023 internet, same is there. So much difference is there. Okay. When internet was introduced at that time, now the speed also, cost also different, all characteristics you observe. How much improvement is there in internet? So lot of difference is there. 1990 internet, 2023 internet. Okay. Even mobiles also, 93, 94 mobiles came. That mobile, 2023 mobile, how much difference is there? So many changes are there, no? It is technology which is going to be updated day by day. You observe Java also, 1995 Java, 2023 Java, how much difference is there? Java also technology. So Java features, so you studied, no? Last new features in Java. Java 19 up to Java 19, Java 1 to Java 19, nearly 25-30 features are there. All you study, no? Like that. So day by day they're updating. Day by day they're updating. Is it over? See, with this reason only CJ outdated. But if we compare first difference, then CJ better appears. Because multiple language supporting. C also, C++ also, Perl also, many other languages. But it is supporting only Java. If you compare this one, CJ better appears. But if you compare this one, Servlet better appears. With this reason only, Servlets become as popular. It was boomed in the industry. And 96 only released, 96 only, it become as popular. Like that. Okay. After that, in Java, applets concept is there. But applets also outdated. Now, next write it. Applets versus Servlets. Applets versus Servlets. Applets versus Servlets. One side applet, one side Servlets. One side applet, one side Servlet. Write it. An applet is a Java program that resides in server and runs in browser. A Servlet is a Java program that resides in server and runs in server only. An applet is a Java program that resides in server and runs in browser. A Servlet is a Java program that resides in server and runs in server only. An applet is a Java program, write it. An applet is a Java program that resides in server and runs in browser. A Servlet is a Java program that resides in server and runs in server only. See, you studied. If the program is residing in server and running in browser, that program is called static web application. The program is residing in server and running server is called dynamic web application. Okay. So it is like a static, it's like a dynamic. Now, applets are used to extend the functionality applets are used to extend the functionality. Applets are used to extend the functionality of browser. Applets are used to extend the functionality of browser. Servlets are used to extend the functionality of server. Applets are used to extend the functionality of browser. Servlets are used to extend the functionality of server. So by using applets, we can extend the functionality of browser. By using servlet, we can extend the functionality of server. Next. Now, applets are used to extend the functionality of browser. Servlets are used to extend the functionality of server. Say, you studied static web application, dynamic web application. That type only, applets comes under static, servlet comes under dynamic. That resides in server, runs in browser. This is resides in server, runs in server only. Whenever request comes to applet, program transfer to browser. Whenever request comes to server solid, program executed, output only transferred. Those all again no need to give. You studied. Okay. With this first difference only you can understand that one. Okay. But applets like programming related concepts I'll give now. Applets do not have main method because applet runs in browser. Applets do not have main method because applet runs in browser. Servlets do not have main method because servlet runs in server. So no main method in applet, no main method in servlet because applet running in browser, servlet running in server. Applets do not have main method because applet runs in browser. Servlets do not have main method because servlet runs in server. Say, previous all programs we written main method because we executed programs under operating system. If you are running program under operating system, main method required. Then operating system starts execution with main method. And if you write a program, applet, servlet programs, these are main method not required. Suppose if you write main method also, now where it will run browser. Browser doesn't know main method. It will not execute. So this servlet program where it runs server. Server doesn't know main method. If you write also no use. It is treated as a normal method. But where execution begins, if main method is not there, in all programs up to JDBC, you studied only main method every day we written. No, further main method is not required because programs are running on server. But where execution begins, for that separate methods are there. Those methods are called life cycle methods. No? Applet has a life cycle. Applet has a life cycle methods to run in browser. Servlet has a life cycle. Servlet has a life cycle methods to run in server. Applet has a lifecycle methods to run in browser. Solid has a lifecycle methods to run in server. Applet has a lifecycle methods. Applet has a lifecycle methods to run in browser. Solid has a lifecycle methods to run in server. Next. See, in applet program, main method will not be there. If you write also, it is not executed because applet runs in browser. Browser doesn't know main method. Solid program also main method will not be there. If you write also, no use because servlet program runs in server. Server doesn't know main method. It is not executed. But execution purpose, separate methods are there. Those methods are called lifecycle methods. Okay. Next, write it. Fifth one, life cycle of an applet. Life cycle of an applet. Life cycle of a solid. Life cycle of an applet. Life cycle of a solid. Here, write this one. Write this one. Life cycle of an applet. Life cycle of a solid. Just write as it is. As it is, write it. Arrows also write it clearly. I'll explain why arrows like that. Life cycle of an applet. Life cycle of a solid. Is it over? Here, first I'll give the notes. After that, this diagram I will explain. See, with your 8 messages only, I clicked chat box, the drawing vanished. Like later I'll discuss now. Any doubts are there, write it in your notebook. End of the session, I'll clarify your doubts. See, solid side, applet side. Now, how many points are given? 5 points. 6 point. 6, not 6 point. The diagram points only. Write it. That continuation only. 5th point only. Here, init method called by browser init method called by browser whenever applet is loaded. Here init online students, later end of the session I'll clarify your doubts. If I click on chat box, this will be vanished. Here init method called by browser whenever applet is loaded. Start method called by browser whenever applet is loaded and activated. Here init method called by browser whenever applet is loaded. Start method called by browser whenever applet is loaded and activated. Paint method called by browser whenever applet is loaded and activated. Stop method called by browser whenever applet is deactivated and closed. Stop method called by browser whenever applet is deactivated and closed. Here init method called by browser whenever applet is loaded. Start method called by browser whenever applet is loaded and activated. Paint method called by browser whenever applet is loaded and activated. Stop method called by browser whenever applet is deactivated and closed. I'll explain, just write the notes. Is it over? Say init method loading time. Start method loading time, activation time. Paint method loading time, activation time. Stop method deactivation time, closing time. Okay. Last one, destroy method. Note up. Destroy method called by browser whenever applet is closed. Destroy method called by browser whenever applet is closed. First, this one I'll explain. You observe. Total 5 methods are there. 5 methods are there. Applet side. 5 methods are there. When init method called by browser. When init method called by browser. Whenever applet is loaded and on loading time only. Whenever start method when it is called. Loaded and activated. Paint method loaded and activated. Stop method deactivated and closed. Destroy method closed. You observe, suppose applet where it runs Browser or server? Browser. Suppose I'll open browser. Okay. Now assume your browser is running. Assume your browser is running. Okay. Now assume applet is running. Now browser is running. In that applet is running. Assume. Suppose I'll open notepad. Now applet deactivated. Again I'll open browser. Applet activated. Again I'll open notepad. Then applet deactivated. Again I'll open browser. Applet activated. If I minimize, applet deactivated. If I maximize, applet activated. If I minimize, deactivated. Maximize, activated. If I click close button, closed, destroyed. Okay. Now I'll ask question, give me answer. Here I open browser. Applet program started. Applet program started. How many methods called? Load, init, start, paint. 3 methods called. 3 methods. I minimized. How many methods? 1 method. That is stop. I maximized. Say, wait. Once again, I'll explain. First listen. Once again, I'll explain. Listen. Because this is okay. This is outdated, not required. Solid required. Solid program we are going to write. See, now I open browser. Assume there is a applet. Now applet is running. Okay. Now applet loaded, activated, running. If I switch on other application, then applet deactivated. Again, if I click browser, activated, it is deactivated, activated, deactivated, activated. If I minimize, deactivated. If I maximize, activated, minimize, deactivated, activated. If I click close button, closed, destroyed. Now give me answer. Applet very first time opened. Now 3 methods. Init, start, paint. If I minimize, 1 method, stop. If I maximize, 2 methods, start and paint. If I minimize again, stop, maximize, start and paint, minimize, stop, maximize. If I close, stop also, stop and destroy, stop and destroy. That is the reason I given like this. You observe. I given arrows like this. You observe. Now, suppose applet loaded. Applet loaded. How many methods? Init, start, paint. Applet deactivated. Stop. Applet activated. Start and paint. Applet deactivated. Stop. Activated. Start and paint. Deactivated. Stop. Activated. Closed. Stop and destroy. Stop and destroy. That is the reason arrows are given like this. Got it? Okay. Here, how many times init method called? Only 1 time. That is loading time. How many times destroy called? Only 1 time while closing. Start, paint, stop many times. Depends upon your activation, deactivation, activation, deactivation. Okay. This is applet side. Now differences not completed. Tomorrow I'll continue. The solid points tomorrow. Okay. Tomorrow, that is programming related, tomorrow onwards. Okay. Now online students, you can ask your doubts now.